Rebellions are built on the Star Wars Guys podcast. Nate, where can the people find us?
Welcome back. Hello there. And you know him well, Uncle.
You know him well.
Hello there.
You know him well.
Hello there. It will shine very brightly. It will burn. The podcast will burn very brightly.
The podcast.
And if it goes down in flames,
It goes down.
burn very brightly.
Isn't that usually our pep talk that we have before
It
every
is.
single episode?
Usually.
We're like, oh, this is probably what we'll do for the episode. Great. And then one of us, and if it goes down in flames,
it will burn
He's
very
not,
brightly.
he's not too far off from Christian Bale's Batman.
No. It will burn very brightly. Where's it trigger?
yeah.
Rachel.
I love it. So, Andor Season 2
It's a wrap.
has officially wrapped. The show as a whole has officially wrapped. And we're going to get into specifics. We're going to talk about episode 10, 11, and 12, the last three, part 4 that they just released a few days ago. But I think we can all agree this is some of, if not the best, Star Wars content we've ever seen. So
Can we agree? I haven't
we
given
are
my initial
going
reaction
to
yet.
get into it.
I
We're gonna
can't
get
say
into
that
it. This
yet.
guy hasn't even watched it yet.
I mean, it's okay. He's kind of playing it by ear. It's like when you go to that book group and you haven't read the book.
That's exactly.
He's kind of following to the names. Like, oh yeah, Andor. That Dan Andor. That guy was good.
Dan
that
Andor.
one. That guy.
Tony Andor, who
Tony
made the show.
Gilligan.
is
Yeah.
Gil.
He was good.
Yeah. What was his name?
good.
Corey Andor?
Corey
yeah,
Scarmansgard.
It's,
Joe, we got Lanjo in the chat.
Lanjo.
Lanjo, our producer.
He's doing it remotely.
He
Remotely.
is. That's it.
Awesome.
No,
he's actually doing it from Scarif today.
he is. He's doing it from Scarif. Yeah.
Nice beach
Little
resort.
remote work.
Nice
Yeah,
beach
it's beautiful.
Yes.
Hey, I just got my orders, honey. I'm on Scarif.
It's a good
It's wonderful.
sunrise.
It's so beautiful.
It's really
Safe.
nice.
Safe. We got a whole force field and everything. Yeah, he's
It's nice. He's planned this whole. Not to make this all about Joe, but he's got this nice vacation trip planned where he's going straight from Scarif to Alderaan.
Alderaan.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna try to hit up. He's gonna try to hit up the New Republic systems. About 20 years later, and hopefully there's no destroying, star killing planets and
Right.
star killing bases and.
The beautiful
Should be great
Imperial
this time of
tour
year.
the galaxy.
Should be great this time of
beautiful
year.
planets.
Say Scarif, and I say we love a good beach. We like beach. No, this overall reactions. Let's dive right into it on
Yeah.
the season, on the
Real quick.
episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. This is
Well,
already.
we didn't get to what Joe was saying.
Oh yeah, because I
you
started
had a
talking
comment.
about his
Yeah. So
vacation plans.
Joe said, "Who else is watching Rogue One now?"
Ooh.
Definitely.
I already started.
I didn't finish
had
it
to
yet,
get
but
the
I started. I
transition.
went back immediately after finishing. I had to go at least watch the beginning to see the transition from the finale to where we see Cassian.
I watched
in
it
Rogue
before
One.
I watched the last one, actually. Not the show. But I wanted to remember what Mon Mothma was like because
Yeah.
I was like, at the time, I didn't know Genevieve O'Reilly.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm
yeah.
going back looking like, wow, it's perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah.
And then I'm watching their discussion about why they're having Cassian go in, why they're looking, and they're
Yeah.
talking about the current events and how things are, and they've been forced to reach out to Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Luthen's
Yeah.
not there, and
Yeah.
yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. It's so
Fits.
good.
It's like almost like they planned it.
Almost. Yeah.
It's almost as if Tony Gilroy also worked a little bit on Rogue One.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't do all of Rogue One.
No,
That's a tale for a different podcast.
that's a different fault.
But
Yeah,
it is. I saw some people online saying, or I saw one tweet that was like, my favorite Star Wars trilogy is season 1 of Andor, season 2 of Andor, and Rogue One.
wow.
And saw someone saying that, and I was like, oh, if you think of if
Yeah.
you think of that, that is a great grouping of this.
It's actually
together.
a double. It's actually 6.
I was just say it's
it
actually
really is.
so. It was
Season
3.
one.
It
Length
was-
of content.
Season
yeah.
1.
It's actually a group of
two,
7
two,
movies
one,
together.
2, 3. Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
It's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. But yeah, we're excited. We're gonna dive into it. And
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
probably
Lot to talk
focus
about.
a little. We'll talk about the overall show and all of season 2 and just really all of it together. But we'll focus more on episode 10, 11, and 12 as we do, week to week our review.
I'm a little perturbed at it. Just a little bit. A little perturbed.
Tell us why.
I'll tell you why.
He's getting worked up.
There's a little bit in the back of my mind, like, it kind of stings a little bit that someone who doesn't love Star Wars came in and did this. Just a little bit. Like, it's almost like, like the guy who doesn't play basketball comes in and beats you one-on-one. You're like, what? How is this possible? Like, this shouldn't have worked this way. Almost like a backhanded, I'll show you how to make a Star Wars movie. Y'all don't know what you're doing. Let me show you how to make a Star Wars show. And then they do. And
Let me show you how to make a Star Wars.
And we're like, please give us more. No, I don't like Star Wars. I'm going to go make a superhero movie now. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But it is a little bit like, well, they had to kind of, somebody who's clearly not, who's sad. I'm not really made a show that's great.
Yeah, more than that.
We'll just enjoy
phenomenal.
it. We'll enjoy it for what it is.
I've been watching, so there's been a lot of these. He's been doing a bunch of interviews. So I'm seeing a bunch of these interviews online.
Yeah.
I was listening to one on the way here.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And I think
There's been a time.
I think if you listen to his recent interviews,
Kathleen Kennedy very high on the list too. He says it wouldn't have happened without.
Yes, and
he didn't want to.
And I
do
think
it
I
for this
think
long.
he has, after season 2, at least from my understanding of listening to his interviews or my take on it, I think I think it's part of his personality to kind of feel like, yeah, I'm not one of those nerds that's like been obsessed with this stuff. But I think he has a deep love of the characters and of this time. Now, I think that he could have written this as a World War I epic and it would have worked? I think he could have. Because I think clearly a lot of this was about rebellions in general.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But the fact that he leads it up to Rogue One, meaning he didn't have to make every single piece of the puzzle fit perfectly, because he could have left a little bit of a gap.
Yeah.
The fact that he wanted to show, obviously, because I worked on Rogue One, even though he didn't write Rogue One.
As we call it Rogue
Rogue.
in the lingo.
That's right. He calls it Rogue all the time in his interviews. He's like, when I worked on Rogue. He also mentions all the time, I can't really discuss working on Rogue very much because it is part of, I don't know if he might even signed an NDA or something, because it was it was contentious as far as when they had to switch directors and he said in this recent interview I was listening to, he said, talking about working with Diego Luna and having him as an executive producer on Andor, and actually being part of the creative team of this. He said, well, he and I hit it off on Rogue. What can I say? I really shouldn't talk about the experience. There were some people that were upset that I was there. For him, it was kind of a salvation. He's expressed, we felt like we really hit it off, and we kind of saw eye to eye on just kind of just the process of doing things, and then he talks about how he helped him with the casting and how he helped him with a lot of the keeping track of story, the map of the story throughout. Because he said these directors who come in, I don't expect we have 3-4 different directors who come in.
Right.
They don't need to. It's not their job to know every plot point of Rogue One and every piece of canon. I bring them in because they're great directors.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be in charge of all that stuff, but it helps having a boots on the ground person who's there acting with it, like Diego, who constantly knows exactly where this is. This is going here. This is going here. This emotional moment matters because of this.
Yeah,
and kind of keeps things and kind of has a voice for me when I'm not there on the day, because we're shooting multiple locations and we have different things going on.
Yeah,
that he was he helped keep a lot of that. So it was interesting hearing him talk about, though. What I was saying is I feel like he probably enjoys Star Wars more than he's letting on now. I think it is true that he said, I mean, I've never worked on a project that is, he's like, I work on 2-hour movies, which is a year and a half long process, and you wipe your hands and you're done. I've never been on a show that takes 5 years and then going back to Rogue, 2015 to 2025.
Right.
It's a long process, But he talked about like, but when I discuss it, like I try not to get emotional because this was very meaningful for me, and this is so. I'm sure that like after, I bet also the emotional response that people have had from it makes him more fond of it.
Yeah.
Versus before is kind of like, I guess I'll do the Star Wars project. They
need
someone to do it.
Kathy's
I guess I'll show you how to do it.
about it. Right.
But yeah, I mean, the overall reaction to these episodes and to the show.
Did you feel like that the final arc was down from the last 3?
You know what? I actually didn't.
I didn't either.
I didn't. I mean, they're very different. They're very different.
Yeah.
So I think the previous, part 3 was the climax.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the action, so to speak, is taking place.
Yeah.
But just as much of the spy and secrecy and actually the post-rebellion actually forming, Yavin now actually being in play and us seeing that fill all the way up to Rogue One, I didn't feel like it dropped off. I felt like it was...
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect because I was like, okay, now we're hitting Yavin. We've had all this. Mon is gone. So we know whatever these 3 episodes are, it's going to be like beginning of rebellion, Yavin stuff, and filling the gaps all the way up to Rogue One. And so I didn't know exactly how they were going to do that, but I thought they did it phenomenally.
They did.
And I thought they wrapped up each character. They went through and intentionally showed endings of every character. I thought it was, I mean, there were things that did, shock me a little bit. Some tragedies there on both sides.
Yeah.
Those who are good and those who are part of the Empire. And we'll get into some of those details, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I don't think it fell off.
I was amazed that they were able to go back and tell an entire backstory.
I didn't expect that coming.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I did not expect that at
it
all.
Was.
And I kind of feel like, wow. So in this context, we go, oh man, now we watch Rogue One, it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back and watch season 1.
Exactly.
It's going to be completely
different.
Because I know.
Yeah, I
Clea's
know.
story is like.
I know.
Yes. Wow. It feels like
and we knew
story within a story now.
Also,
like,
every
great
Luthen
job.
moment, every
all
Luthen
of
moment
those,
of looking at. I mean, there's so many
like
things.
A prequel of season 1 and the last of season 2.
Which is
was.
such an So
surprising.
We'll get into the weeds.
I love that episode.
My overall,
I love that episode.
I was blown away by this final arc, and like I would say, obviously, episode 7, 8, and 9, which leads to this, ends with the Mon Mothma speech and all that. I think that understandably so from the people who
is going to get the most recognition.
Understandably so from the people who saw all 12 episodes before we did, because there was like the people who were able to get the screeners and do all that. That was the arc that was talked about the most. I get why, because it was also when the dam breaks and all of a sudden it's out there now that it's the Gorman massacre, Mon Mothma, it's the masks are pulled off and now we're full scale rebellion.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by that whole thing, and I thought it was incredible. I feel like for this, I enjoyed this probably just as much, or if not, like on the same level.
Yeah.
Where I'm on the edge of my seat, and it's not at all what I expected these last. Like I expected, and we had talked about in the last podcast, that one of the things that we thought might happen, clearly, is that we don't see Luthen in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because there are a lot of characters in this show we do see in Rogue One.
Yeah.
So it's not like, well, they just didn't write the story yet. Like, yeah, but that's very noticeable, or it's very notable how important he is to the story, and he's not in Rogue One. So we thought he likely doesn't make it out alive. I did not expect at all that they would give the backstory for him, the backstory for Clea, and then have this whole this entire like extension in this final arc of wrestling with basically the importance of Luthen, the things he did well, and then the things that they had to separate from him when it was necessary.
Yeah.
I
mean, Cassian even says, I left him. Like, I saw what he was doing that was wrong.
There's a lot of things historical.
I chose to be here.
That's right.
I left Luthen because of the bad things, but none of you would be here without him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things in real history and revolutions or big historical moments that dive into, or that really explain the characters who kick off an event and where they play in the actual moving forward. I saw one review of the show saying interesting. I saw one review of the show talking about not a direct correlation, or I mean they did a correlation. They said it's not apples to apples, but Luthen being like a Moses character of like leading the people to the promised land, but because of my sins, and because of the things I've done, I don't get to experience it when we get there.
Right.
And it's the wandering through the desert and all the years, and he's done things along the way that are not great. Like what I think is so interesting in this, the revelation of the Clea adopted, his adopted daughter essentially, with the Bail, whose adopted daughter is Leia, and the moments they have at the end where she says, "I think you two would have gotten along, probably a lot better than you realize." Yeah, when he was talking about, if I die in the rebellion, or if I die in this, I want,
go down
I want to go down with a bang, or go out with a bang.
Go down
fighting.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because in that moment, when they're like, "Yeah, I think you would have gotten along with Luthen more than you think." You think about that because of how committed they are to the cause. But then when you take a step back, you're like, oh no, and they also both have this adopted daughter who's super important, who then outlives them, and is extremely. I mean, who
carries on their cause,
are two of the most crucial people to the rebellion. We didn't know about Clea's importance until this, but the rebellion does not happen if Clea does not get the info from Luthen. The rebellion does not. There's no Luke Skywalker trench run without Lonnie. So R.I.P. Lonnie.
That's right.
We'll talk about Lonnie. But I was blown away. I was really moved, and by the end of the show, I was just sitting there watching this, going, I think this is one of the greatest television shows. And I think it's going to win best. I think it's going to win best.
It should.
Drama. And I think that the talk of it went from like, oh, this is great for a Star. I feel like season 1 was, this is great for a Star Wars show. You got to check it out. Now it's like, it's becoming bigger than that too.
It's bigger than Star Wars. Yeah, it is. It is.
I found it remarkable. Well, there's a lot of things about it. One, the show starts with looking for a sister, and we never get back to that.
I know.
Which is Tony Gilroy talked about
with some of his flashbacks,
leaving things open, which is cool. You lay things that you can come back to. They did
in this arc. They flashed to it again, right?
They did.
I love especially how that we all thought about. Well, somebody's not in the next one, so they have to die. No, they can also be from another faction, which is looked down upon as an outsider.
Yeah, and
their role is finished.
Totally.
They don't have the same Clea does not have the same respect in this circle. Neither does Val.
Yeah.
They're Luthen people. Mm-hmm. So they're outsiders who've been accepted because they have the same ideology, but they've done things that the
she was worried that Clea was worried that she'd be a prisoner.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right. And so I love that they're able to take these factions, and then Saul is a completely different one. Yeah. All of them working for the same goal, but some of them outsiders. Yeah. So fascinating how he was able to tie those in. Yeah. So Cassian is the crossover. Mon Mothma kind of is too, but Cassian is now after Rogue One has touched all 3 factions.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right, and I love that they brought it full circle in that moment when they bring up Cassian or when Cassian brings up Luthen, and they're like, "When was the last time you spoke with him?" About a year ago, and he pauses and says,
when
Luthen sent me to save Mon Mothma, you're welcome. Like, he did that. I mean, he's like, I went and saved him, but Luthen sent me to go do that.
I said none of us would have been here.
Yeah.
She wouldn't be here either.
She wouldn't be here. None of us, like, this wouldn't be. I loved that touch where he paused and then said, when he sent me. I was like, man, he's just, yes, there are things. And I think it's hard to do that. It's hard to balance the moral ground because you don't want the show to portray Luthen as this, all-encompassing savior that did everything right. You don't want to glorify the things that he did wrong. Mm-hmm. They don't. I think they do a good
They
job.
made him a
of
bad guy partway through. I was like,
They
I
do.
don't like this
I
guy
mean, even
anymore.
all
Yeah.
of the other than Mon Mothma, the rest of them are like he's an
They all left
extremist. They're like even Cassian agrees. And I like that they had it come from him too,
That's right.
to show you that there are things that he did that were wrong.
Mhm.
There are things he did that were right, and that that helped us get here. But I think it was just as impactful by Cassian saying that and saying I chose to be here over being with him because of those things. But you have to also recognize the impact that he's had.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I loved Clea's backstory. I loved that we had like basically a whole episode of her.
So awesome.
It was so
And like
good.
DH
And that's the best way
Skarsgård.
to-
It
no.
was, yeah.
That was the best way for him to go out too.
It
Yes.
But we all knew, like when she's going to the hospital, she's not saving
No,
him.
no.
That's it.
Yeah,
No,
we
that's
knew.
and let's talk about that moment, and then we'll do what we usually do as far as
Like characters.
we'll
Thumbs
go
up or down,
characters.
died, no
characters.
di-
Yeah, we'll make a prediction. Do we think
Luthen will
I
come
think
back
now-
to life or not?
he seems to have been through a lot? This kind of feels like the end of a season of 24.
It does.
I am sure now that our Jack Bauer,
will
Cassian, will
Right.
live happily ever after
sure.
now that he's made it
Yeah.
through.
come back to
So
come back
let's-
to
we don't have
yes.
a ton of time, so
But
let's go
we'll go through
each
some
character.
characters. But I was gonna say on that moment,
yeah.
it's brilliant writing by Tony Gilroy, Dan Gilroy, everyone who's working on the show.
All the Gilroys.
All the Gilroys. That that they write this like intense spy arc for this final arc, all based on circling around Clea, which I've been saying from day one is one of my favorite characters in the show. And now we get all
And they
this
do
rich
tease
backstory.
her ability to step up and
At first,
I mean,
she's like she's running the shop. That's what I thought.
yeah.
And then they
the
start.
store.
Then they
The
start
one
having her
moment in
out there
season-
with the hood on
in
and start
season
talking
one,
to people, and you're like,
she's
"Whoa,
going
whoa,
on
she's
jobs.
actually
Yeah.
really."
In season 1, she confronts Val and like speaks firmly to her
Mhm.
about going and killing Cassian.
Yeah.
And that was when you're like, oh wait, she's more than just.
I want to
Ability to
rewatch
get more than
every
just the
single
shop.
scene she had with Luthen too, because that's a whole different dynamic
I gotta
now.
go
When
back and watch the
when
first
she
one.
is confronting him,
Yeah.
you're slipping. Like she's talking to her dad,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and
she's the tough one, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how about in that moment, in that
I'm
final,
drowning.
before they show the flashback, the way that they did that in this episode,
Yeah.
of him saying, "Move," and she goes and smiles and goes, "Tuck in your shirt, like you slob."
Yeah.
And then they it was like this mutual respect. They walk away, and then they show the flashback of
Yeah.
the move is what he was telling her when she was a girl,
Right.
Yeah.
how to protect her and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we move and
He
we do
gets
this,
you.
and when I say this, we do that, and that's how we get out of here and how we protect ourselves. And now he uses that same language
Mm-hmm.
to her, and then she cuts back at him with like, "You slobs, just come on." But to write that she is breaking in and risking herself to kill the person she loves the most.
Mhm.
Yeah.
To
For the
and-
sake of the
for the sake of the rebellion, but
It's
also
completing- it's
and also
completing his journey.
he's also being held. He's being kept alive by the machines.
Yeah.
They overhear
Yeah.
them saying the only thing that's keeping him alive is that room right now at the
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
He already tried to do it himself,
Yeah.
so she knows this is actually his wish.
Yeah.
This is what he thinks
Yeah,
is
this is
the
what
best
he
for the
wants.
rebellion. But her doing it and risking all that to go in to have that moment with him was
yeah,
just
we've got
so-
Oliver
so,
saying it was so emotional when Luthen died.
so
It was.
emotional. I thought the actress
Almost.
Clea was
almost as emotional for me as Dedra.
this.
I was like, oh, I felt bad. Why
This
do I
whole
feel bad?
Dedra and Cyril.
Why do I feel bad for Cyril
know.
and Dedra?
Cyril and Dedra, you're like they
They feel
were
like they're
so
also
devoted
pawns
to the
of
cause.
the Empire.
Oh,
I
completely.
feel like
Oh.
they were manipulated
Here's
and
the thing,
used too.
completely
It's-
pawns of the Empire.
Every
so
even
sad.
and what's funny is it all leads up to Krennic also being a pawn of the Empire.
Right.
They
He is
all
too.
are.
He is
No
too.
matter how high you
They're
are,
all used.
no matter how high you are, unless you're Palpatine or Vader,
Right.
you become a pawn of the Empire.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
Pendergast.
Yes, Partagas.
Partagas.
I love him. Oh
That
my
was
goodness.
exactly how it. That's
the thing.
way.
There's
That's the way
so
you do
many
it.
characters.
It's the Godfather.
Let's start
it's
with
the it's the
Partagas.
Roman
We'll start with
way.
Partagas right now because
Yeah.
we'll do
Yeah.
a character
Yeah.
rundown. One of my favorite scenes in the whole show in 2 seasons is, I mean, I love the actor. His who plays Partagas. He's great. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, yes, give me more
Yeah.
of him.
yeah.
So imperial.
So imperial. The kind of from a supervising role too, like talk like super quiet. It's like this in control.
Yeah.
He's constantly when Dedra in the previous episodes, like, compose yourself. Like she's getting frustrated, and he's like, that's unbecoming of us. And like he's doing all that, like in telling her, like,
keeping her
like,
in line.
come on. And one of my favorite moments is the Krennic Partagaz in person. When they're telling the narrative of, you're going to say this, she's diseased, and talking about, like, this is why we have to kill her. They have the hollow thing up there, and saying we have to kill her because she's diseased, and this is the thing we're coming up with. And then he's like, you heard him, why are we still? And like Karen's like, why are you still here? Go. And then the guy leaves the room, and then Krennic says, I can't protect you, Leo. And he calls him Leo. Yeah. And immediately in that small moment, we know, without them having to dive into it, that these two have risen up the ranks. Like, that they probably spent time in the Imperial Academy together. Yeah. They have a history together. Yeah. Even the way Krennic is talking to him, like, there's this mutual respect. They're not trying to one-up each other, even though Krennic's obviously at this much higher status. And and he says, like, "Oh, save your sermon for the Emperor." Like, and he's like, tells him, because he says, "Your Death Star." He's like, "We're days away. We're so close." He's like, "You should have been done by now." And they're doing all this whole thing, and then, well, best of luck to us both then. And we know that both of them end up dying. And obviously, we get the death of Partagaz in this show, and we know what happens to Krennic, right? And how they're both facing this. You know, it's.
Krennic's
they're both like
so tragic. He
having
really
to do all this.
Very weapon he
I know.
It's just I just love the Imperial stuff in the show. It's just so good.
And they all become, what's the word? Basically, they all fall casualty to what their own build up.
They're consumed by the Empire.
Yeah, it's and I heard some people also
their own creation.
They're all consumed by their own lack of freedom.
The Empire's about control.
Yeah, the rebellion is fighting for the freedom, and these guys and Dedra and Cyril and Partagaz and
they're working their way up the Imperial ladder to gain more freedom, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, even Dedra's searching freedom. She's searching for, like, she wants to do these jobs, but she has to do them illegally by the Empire standards of taking information that she's not supposed to have to go do it, because she wants the freedom to go get.
Did you guys think in that moment he was going to put that one? I mean, did you expect before he pulled the blaster that's what he was doing? I did too. I thought I didn't know it.
Myself.
I didn't right when he said the compose stuff, and he was like, and like walks away.
I expected
and then
it.
He kind of sat there for a second, like straightened up. I was like. And they, especially when they go to the behind shot, I thought, oh, he might do it.
When he was listening to the manifesto, they brought that back.
Yeah,
the broadcast,
and it was the broadcast, and it was basically it was almost like he had some admiration for it, because he's like, it's reached.
It's like it's mesmerizing.
There's mesmerizing. There's something about it. It's reaching so far we can't control it and stuff. He's portraying. When he was listening to that is when I thought, oh, he's gone.
Among the two final scenes, we have K2 waking up Cassian, and he's thinking about his sister.
Yeah.
Which reminds us that that's kind of the fuel, the unfinished thing that he never accomplished. And then the very last scene, which is
oh my gosh,
which I think was great. It was
great, so good,
showing that that it allowed us to see. We say it's sad. It allowed us to see. Cassian didn't see it, but that is what he's fighting for.
That's what he's fighting for. That's
the victory.
Yes, that's the hope.
That people can live in freedom, raise their children in peace.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
That's what he's fighting for.
Now, we know that planet isn't yet free.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
But she's living there free.
And whether he knows it or not.
He fought a whole life for him in his own
he
child.
fought.
Exactly.
Yeah, he fought for a life that they could live.
Didn't see it, but
I was watching an interview with Tony Gilroy, and he was asked about why did you put that as the ending, and he said, even amongst the rebellion and the tragedy that we see unfold in this show and in this series, Star Wars is always about hope, and that is the hope. The hope is a life. Is exactly what you're saying. The hope is the life that they could live.
It's not.
And that's what Cassian's, and all of them are fighting for. And so even though it didn't work out for Cassian, because we know what ends up happening in Rogue One, we now get to see a glimpse as to the fuel and what his whole everything. We
Yeah.
get to see part of the hope, even in the middle of what they haven't fully accomplished yet.
That's right.
So they haven't fully accomplished the defeat, the blow up of the Death Star, because that comes right after Rogue One, or shortly after Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
But we still see a glimpse of that hope throughout that, because successful in Bix. I do want to talk a little bit about, since we're on that with Bix, the conversation he has with Val. Because I was thinking more about it, and I was like, I wonder how much Val actually knows. Because after seeing the result that Bix is alive with his child,
when she said,
Val-
"Don't wait too
Cassian?
long,"
Val,
She knows where she is.
and she said, "Don't." You
And
might
she
reconnect.
said-
And she said, "Don't wait too long."
and he
It
even
made me
mentions
interesting.
like he says,
He said, "You should go see her."
yeah, she says you should go see her, and he says something along the lines of like, she's not safe.
Yeah.
She's not safe with me. Maybe, and basically he infers that maybe she doesn't want to see me, and she basically says, I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Right.
And then he's like, well, maybe I'll see her when things
Maybe
settle down.
sometime, yeah.
I'll see her sometime when things settle down. And then she says, I wouldn't wait too long. It made me think, I wonder how much she really knows, and she's protecting him. The same reason Bix left is because she knew that Cassian would leave and give it up for her
Mhm.
and his child.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that he would leave with her to protect them and give up on all of this.
Yeah.
But she said, I know you have a role to play in this. You have a purpose. I can tell. I know it. And knew that if he knew the truth, if he knew about the child, then he would leave it. He would leave everything and go,
Mm-hmm.
which you could say is the right thing to do, but he would
Right.
leave it.
He would.
And she knew that, and so doesn't tell her. And it made me think, I don't know if Val knows all of that, but I was like, I wonder how much she knows, because she knows that she's safe.
Yeah.
We also
And
know
she
that
also
she's
enticed him on,
That's right.
don't wait too long to get,
Don't wait.
We also
Right.
know that she's extremely resourceful and capable of herself in her
For
own
sure.
right.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I don't think it's beyond her capabilities
Yeah.
to track down where
Yeah.
where Bix is. And
Yeah.
just from a perspective of
It
being
just made me think if
Do you
she
think
knew
any
that.
of the X-wings they were working on were Red 5?
Oh,
Luke's?
Luke's.
It
I
had
think-
to be. One of those
possibly.
was.
I mean
Yeah.
in the background I did hear what's that flashing?
What's that flashing? Why
It didn't
is
line
the
up
16-year-old
canon wise
kid here?
because he wouldn't say that yet. But.
Why is it built on hope? And 16-year-old
I know.
children flying X-wings.
Can I just say also from it's a small point, but being immersed in Yavin as much as we were,
Oh,
more
so
than we
cool.
ever have before.
Mhm.
So cool.
It starts
I'm
to
just watching
form
it, I'm
into
like-
what we know it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
And now
There's the
it felt
battle
almost
screens.
like
yeah, you
oh,
start seeing the battle screens. You start seeing,
It's awesome.
yeah.
and then you're just seeing like, oh, you're just like the fact that Gilroy and team did this, and they're just like having a conversation and just a bunch of X-wings behind them. Like they're on a movie set. Like this
Right.
is
Yeah,
as big
they
as a
are.
movie production,
They
if
are.
not bigger. And I
Mhm.
know they've talked about that with the money, but it's like
Akbar?
it's. Oh no, that was no, that was Radis.
Okay,
Radis.
Radis.
Yeah.
That was the I say we fight.
Yeah, yeah,
from,
yeah, yeah.
from,
That's right.
from
That's right.
Rogue
The
One.
same
That's
same
Radis, yeah.
species.
Right.
Yeah.
Admiral Radis. Yeah, he's
Admiral
and-
Radis, yeah.
and this entire council.
Yeah.
Obviously recast because no Jimmy Smits, but it's
Mhm.
they made everyone look in the exact. Obviously, Mon Mothma. They made
Yeah,
her look
same
just like
attire.
it. You got Draven. Whatever they did to Diego Luna, he has. Because I rewatched a little bit of Rogue One recently.
He looks
They
the
mate his
same.
hair, his face. Where they de-aged
gotta-
him or something.
I don't know, but
he looks
looks
significantly
He looks.
throughout this arc. I don't remember if it was if it was the transition from episode 8 or 8 from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12, where he got his haircut,
Yep.
Yeah.
and I immediately thought he looks just as young as he did in 2015. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
where if you actually looked in some of the previous episodes, and I had also watched Rogue
You had
One
to
a little bit, I
probably
was
a
like,
little
oh,
bit of
he
work.
definitely looks a little bit older in some of this than
Yeah.
he did in Rogue One. They made him look
With
really
the haircut
young.
and
Mhm.
stuff, yeah.
And I wondered just because it's around the same episodes that they did the Luthen
It's-
thing. That I'm like, did they do something visually,
Yeah, I
or
don't
is
know.
it just the
It's
hair?
getting
Or is it
freakily
just the
easy now to do that.
where it's like
Yeah.
you couldn't catch
Easy,
it
relatively
almost.
speaking, that they
Yeah.
can touch up
Yeah.
and not
What
almost.
what
just-
other
The
characters?
mentions of Galen Erso.
Plug in.
Let's
Yeah.
do Dedra real quick because
Dedra.
to end up in the
Ugh.
prison.
Oh my
um,
gosh.
Also, did not have on my Star Wars
Bingo card?
bingo card That's exactly where I was going. On my Star Wars bingo card, it's just great writing. That Dedra, who we've been following all along, has any hand at all in her overstepping, and she's so fixed on Axis that it actually brings the destruction of the Death Star.
Yeah.
And the whole scene with Krennic of who else knows? Say it. Death Star. When he grabs her head and
he puts his finger on her.
His finger on her and stuff is, first of all, the most menacing Krennic has ever
talked
been.
About that. She's like, you don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah.
So those moments are literally. He didn't tell her. I'm gonna put my. He
just does it.
Yeah. It's like her terror is real.
It's so good. Like, and from our perspective, when he says like, well, then we'll have to just we'll get on without you or whatever, and we think I think in the moment he might snap her neck or he might
I
do
thought
something
so when he
because
grabbed
he's like
her.
physically doing the stuff to her. But most menacing Krennic we've gotten because we've seen in Rogue One menacing Krennic.
Krennic the menacing.
Sleepy Joe and menacing Krennic. Lion Ted. No, we get a lot of. I love Krennic's one of my favorite Star Wars villains, and I've been saying this since Rogue One.
Yeah,
but it's even added to it in this when you get a little bit more of. So much of Rogue One, and he's fantastic in it, is the pressure that he's feeling for the Death Star.
Yeah,
and you see it in not as much of a.
Saying it should have been done.
Yeah, you see it you see his relationship with Tarkin and him. You see him as the middle guy a little bit, or of him not getting the credit. Where he is. We know we're not going to get a visual Palpatine in the show. I mean, obviously we know now because it's over. But we also predicted based on just kind of the way the show was told that he is the highest level character that we're going to get. We hear mentions of Tarkin and mentions of Palpatine, but when he's on screen, he is the top dog of there's no one. And to see him physically do something that feels more menacing and scary than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Not like a respect me because I deserve respect, like feeling like I'm under, but like actually the person people are afraid of. Was really cool because anytime I get more Ben Mendelsohn, it's just fantastic. I think he's awesome.
I really liked the way these last few episodes paralleled Rogue One in a sense that it paralleled the Death Star plans to the knowledge of the Death Star. It felt very like, take this, and I'm getting struck by Vader as the information is slowly passing, and the next person's dying as they pass the information along, just in hope that it would get to Leia, or it would get to the rebellion
to get out.
And so it felt like that is what's happening, but now it's just that this weapon even exists, and it's Luthen gets it from Lonnie, and then boom, I got to get rid of Lonnie because, and we'll talk about that, but got to get rid of Lonnie because now there's two of us that know this, and we can't have that.
And they still don't know there's a weakness in it.
Yeah,
no,
they still don't know that. They don't have the plans yet, but that was all leading to them going on the mission we see in Rogue One because they have to find out about the Death Star. So it felt like it paralleled that handoff of information from the plans, but now we're seeing it in this.
And having Dedra's obsession with Axis caused her to constantly step over the line. And you're not even on this I should have reported it. It's been on your on your server, this. And that
Lonnie spent 3 hours going
3 hours. In that moment, her face goes like white of like, she kind of in the moment, I think feels like, oh, I'm done for. Like that the person who had it and now we just find out is found dead and is the connection to Axis all along.
There's only one reason that an informant would be killed.
Yeah.
Is that he's already told what you need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. How do we feel about Lonnie? That moment of Lonnie getting killed?
Again, I think it's one of those
by Luthen.
It's one of those things where you can see where Luthen's coming from, but it's wrong. I mean, it's one of those moments where you.
It's the Cassian shooting.
It is
Tivik or shooting what's the name in the back on Kafrene or whatever that's coming up.
It's like it's wrong, but it also simultaneously doesn't end up working without the nitty and gritty.
The reality of these situations is if they'll do it for you, they'll do it to you.
Yeah.
So the fact that Lonnie was an informant made him a liability.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's an informant. It's not like Cass is an enforcer. He'll go, but he's not. He doesn't share information.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Neither does Clea. Doesn't share information. Vel, they don't. Lonnie by nature is a cheat.
Yes.
Is a liar.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's doing to the Empire. So immediately he thinks, well, he's too desperate. If they'll give him what he wants, he'll tell them.
And let's face it,
So
the way he
it's
talks
dangerous.
to Luthen,
It is
too,
wrong,
about
but
you
he's
need to
thinking,
protect
I
my
can't- there's
family.
no
You
way.
need to protect my family. And there's this. Luthen's also smart enough that
He's like, I can't.
they catch
can't do
him and
that.
they make a threat at his family. He's going to say, he'll tell him everything.
He's going to give it up. And
Yeah.
Luthen
Yeah.
already knows he's not getting out either.
Yeah.
It's not like
It's not like
we're
I'm
both
going to
to
survive
die.
to do this.
There-
It's I got to keep this going further. I got to get to Clea, and if
There-
I don't,
I wouldn't have
if they
done it.
catch
in
you.
some
I
ways,
wouldn't have done it.
No.
Yeah.
But
in some ways,
But you
their
understand
fate was
Luthen
already
does it.
sealed. Both of their
Fitting.
fate was already sealed.
that's right.
And,
To protect the
yeah.
to protect.
And let's
what
be
they're
honest,
doing.
the first conversation we ever see between Luthen and Lonnie felt like this was coming.
Oh yeah.
How scary is
Oh, it
Luthen
was
on
almost
that
there. It
like
was the first
balcony
time.
in the dark
Lonnie's
talking to
been
Lonnie,
blackmailed this entire
and Lonnie's
time.
like, "I'm done." You're basically like, "You're done when I say you're done." Like
Yeah.
that type of
right.
yeah.
like, dude, I'm just trying to do
threatens
one
him.
more thing and get out. Like I'm trying to.
Threatens him. Yeah.
In that sense, the
I made my money. Why did I
Luthen and the
sacrifice
Empire aren't
everything?
that much
Yeah.
different in the way they
Yeah.
use information.
Yeah.
People are expendable if they
Yeah.
provide what they
yeah.
they
But
need.
who would have thought Lonnie and
we're gonna have
Dedra
to continue this.
being this
Yeah.
to get to the Death Star. Lonnie and Dedra.
Let's continue.
being
If you
Dedra.
want to
Crazy.
next time,
We'll-
I
yeah,
would
we'll-
like to
we'll-
talk more about all of
All of this
Yes, we've
together.
got so
maybe all
much.
the connections to Rogue One.
Yeah.
Maybe all the connections to Episode 4.
We can bridge the
and
gap.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Because
We'll
we
have to
haven't
do
got
that.
to, as we're wrapping, we haven't really talked a ton about just in the final like wrapping of the show, the
I
just
can't
kind of
believe-
looking at. I was just gonna say looking at where the rebellion has come from to become this widespread, like getting throughout the galaxy. It's so interesting seeing the different factions, but now seeing them kind of go off, not like, like basically like the children of Luthen, even though Luthen's child is obviously
Yeah.
we talk about Clea, but talking about Val, talking about
Cassian.
Bix, Cassian, they were all under this. Cinta, who obviously didn't make
What's
it.
the guy's name? The other dude's name. We didn't
Oh,
even talk about his.
Will?
Yeah. Will.
Will. Yeah, these different who have these big roles to play,
Mm-hmm.
but how one like we know where Cassian's is headed.
Right.
Bix, there's hope there
Right.
that she's kind of at least
Yeah.
out of the fight
Yeah.
Mhm.
and raising the child and everything. We don't know what happens to Val. We don't. I
No.
mean, she's
Yeah.
been a soldier,
I
but
think
she
they're-
took
yeah,
a
they're-
step back from all
They're
that a little
fringe
bit.
enough that they're not going to be brought into the full rebellion to the
Yeah.
alliance.
But they're
But
there.
they've kind of served
Yeah.
their role.
My
yeah,
final
yeah.
comment is just that as a friend, I would hope that someone would say, Mon, I know you're not in the Senate anymore. You don't have to have the extravagant Chandrila lifestyle or
Don't need
anything.
to.
Amira, though, I did prefer the other haircut, just as a friend.
Yeah.
I
As
think
a
they're
friend-
saying she doesn't have
I
access to
know.
all of those high level
I know it's
She doesn't.
hair
Well,
designers
and-
anymore.
yeah,
It's-
and to
yeah.
her, I think it's also it's I joke because it's obviously symbolic also that she's like this facade of stuff that does not matter.
that's right.
Yeah.
This is
Get
the
someone
bland.
doing
We're
her
in the
hair every
nitty gritty of the
day.
rebellion.
Yeah.
I don't sit there every day
Doesn't-
and do
She
this.
doesn't
This
have
is
anybody to do that
I don't
anymore.
look the part. I don't need to look
That's right.
the part.
And
in
Perrin is still going.
your
Parents
parents.
still
Parents
living the
moved
life.
on. He's got his
Living
little
the life.
earring and he's ready to go.
Man.
Man.
He's sitting
One
there.
thing
with
I
the
will
lady on
say
his lap
is
and he's just drinking.
I did like how
That's it.
Clea. I liked how Clea shows up and he's like, or Cassian shows up to Clea and he's like, Luthen. And then when she's like, we got the call or the thing, and she just looks at him and says, "Of course it was you."
Mm-hmm.
Like, of
You
course,
come-
like
yeah.
you. And he said, because there was a premise throughout the whole thing of Cassian has always
Well,
answered
she was also the
Luthen.
one who delivered the death warrant for
Cassie's
him.
Yes.
always.
She was
yeah,
the one who said,
Totally.
"Go kill him."
Yeah.
I got
Of course,
chills.
Cass-
Cassian's
one.
always
It's amazing.
answered. They've said you
He
think
comes for
you're
everybody.
free,
Yeah.
but you've always come to my call.
He'll never
I
let
got
anyone
chills
leave
in that
anyone
final
behind.
montage of Cassian walking to the ship, and they're showing the different people and the different storylines, and
Yeah.
it cuts, and you see him look at
All
the
the
Force
reactions
healer
to- yeah.
Yeah.
in the Force, because to us,
Yeah.
it's like her nodding and knowing he's exactly where he's supposed to be, but we know he's headed now not straight to Scarif, but now he's on the final pathway.
He'll never come. He never goes back to Yavin.
That's it.
Yeah.
And this is the final.
Right? I don't think he
Or
ever
he comes back with Rebellions Are Built on Hope.
He does come back
with
Jin.
But this is the final.
This is the final.
This is the final
leg.
train leaving the station of this is headed to Scarif. But like seeing her again and like it's just a reminder of the importance of it all and also his importance in it. When at the beginning of the first season, he's not only does he not want to be involved in this, he's like, that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not anybody that needs to be. I'm a I'm
it's just
smaller
incredible.
Than that,
it's just incredible. We'll do another episode on it, and we'll do another episode of just Andor as a whole. It's bridging the gaps between that and Rogue One. And
I'm gonna be thinking about the show for a long time.
Yeah, it's just
mainly because we don't have another Star Wars show coming out for a year.
It better win awards.
It will.
I think it's gonna win a lot. I really do.
The acting, everybody's acting's phenomenal.
I think they said on IMDb it's one of the first shows, like maybe the first show in history that's had something that was like 4 consecutive episodes of like a 9.5 or 9.7 rating or higher.
Yeah. I think one of the episodes is 9.9.
Maybe they'll break into the upper echelon of television. We'll have a CSI Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
How many versions of that show are there? 911.
It's going to be going to be a new Office spinoff, but it's just the Empire.
Smits is
it's the Empire in their cubicles. And it's just so bland.
Jimmy's like, man, why?
Anyway, there you have it. Thanks for tuning in.
Man.
Like Andrew said in the chat, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash the notification bell. We're excited to talk more about this probably next week. We'll catch you again. We'll keep talking Andor. We'll talk about the connection between it and Rogue One. There's a lot to get into.
Well, we can do that or
you can like the video. We'll catch you guys next time. And as always, may the Force be with you.
17. 18. How
many
rules you're breaking?
It's
high.
Turn off the comms.
It's
18.
very high.
High. It's very high.
I made a path for you.
He was great too. K2 was
hilarious.
Awesome. It was awesome.
And talk about
There's
a
so
monster.
much to talk to. We'll do it next time.
Goodness.
And why was Diego so so
I know he was not
thankful.
Yeah.
He was not,
I guess it's the way droids are. They're just treated
seen
that
down.
way.
Yeah. Looked down upon.
He's scary though.
He is.
What if
scary.
he decides?
He's like, you're not risking your life like I am.
Exactly. And shut yourself down too. Shut the ship down and remember that when he comes back.
Plug the professor into the back.
We're gonna
The hyperdrive.
Catch you guys next time.